Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Southern Dirt Motorsports podcast. I'm Steve Winstead, along with my host, Tommy Guy and Randall Davis. And today we're coming from Northfield Vineyards here in Sparta, Tennessee. And today we're honored to have somebody that I feel like is a true legend. I remember him when he raced at the old Castle racetrack behind the Castle School. He is a member of the 2015 Upper Cumberland Racers Hall of Fame. He's won over 180 races scattered all through the South, raced in Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Driver of the famous Triple Nickel, Mr. A.W. Cat Stiles. Cat, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So how long did you race, Cat? How long was it?
I'm making an estimate 15 years.
15 years?
I'm guessing. I started a business and I couldn't come all the way back like from Texas to race 2 or 3 hours and then go all the way back. So I had to give up racing.
Well, tell us a little bit about, Cat, the business you were in before you did start racing.
Well, I worked at Carrier's Air Conditioning, and I worked at Douglas Aircraft in Sparta. That was my badge number was 6666. And then I made foreman, and I was transferred to the Smithville Douglas Aircraft plant. Somebody bought them out, and they took 5 plants in Middle Tennessee. They took those plants back to California.
Now, share with us, if you will. We know what you did before you started racing. Now, what event happened that got you started in racing?
Peanut Cantrell owned and built the track in McMinnville. Well, when he built the track, he had a car, Circle 2. Well, running the racetrack, he didn't have time to drive it. My cousin, Raymond Stiles, he come out to my place and said, let's go together and buy that car. I said, how much he want for it? He told me. I said, I don't have half that much money. I have to go to the bank. I went to the bank, got the money, and the way we done it, we'll flip to see who drives the first race. All right, whoever wins the flip drives the first one. Then from then on, we alter, regardless of what the race is. And I got to tell you this, it's a true story. Back then, you had to push that lever way up on here's the dash, a big bolt come out, turned around, hook it in second gear, or it would jump out of gear. Well, I never had been in it, see, the first time. I was going around back straight away, through turn 3, coming out of 4, there's the grandstand. And I was still trying to do this. I let the right front wheel run up the bank, and it laid over before I made the first lap. And that's a true story.
Now, was that the Circle 2 car, or was that the sedan that you built?
No, well, I built the sedan, but this is after Circle 2. Yeah, Circle 2.
So Circle 2 is the one that you rolled over.
Yeah, Circle 2 is the one I rolled over. Well, that blue one, I rolled it too.
Yeah, I thought I seen the dents on it too.
Yeah, well, I just totaled 4. That ain't bad.
No.
Was that in 1 year, Cat?
Half a season.
Oh, really? Now, was your first race, was it at the old McMinnville racetrack? Is that where you had your first race?
Yes.
And how did you do in that race? We all know you survived it.
I don't remember if I even placed in it. There's nothing wrong with the car. Inexperience, no experience. I won't say where I placed, if I placed. But we did this now. Raymond and me got permission, and we went out there on a dry track and practiced some. Not during a race, through the week, but we got permission. And of course, it was slick, dry, as dry as that right there. And when it's wet and packed, it's altogether different. But it helped me get used to the car.
Get the feel of it.
And the old track would always get dry slick before the end of the race anyway.
Guarantee it.
It would do it
guarantee
every
it.
time.
Yeah.
And you were one of the best at handling that too, so you learned well.
Well, I've got to make a confession here. I had a good mechanic, and I could make a few laps. We raced many tracks. I could go out there and make a few laps. All the tracks was different. I could tell my mechanic what it was doing. He knew how to adjust it. I'll give him a lot of credit on that. And I give Mr. Ed Rogers credit for doing this. It's called money.
That helps.
It did me. When I first started racing, I was making 75 cents. Now, you know I didn't have no money.
No.
Now, after you got started in this driving that car, what really started your career to where it led to? How did it pick up from there? What came after your first racing, and what evolved from that?
Well, like I said, we went out there and practiced some on that. That helped me to get familiar with the car and the track 100%. It helped me.
What is some of the other racetracks you raced at throughout your career?
Well, up in Albany, Kentucky, Somerset, Kentucky. Seemed like it was 2 tracks in Alabama, Georgia, and of course Tennessee. Now down at Winchester, they had a good track down there. It was what I considered red clay. When it would pack, but it helped everybody. The car, you could go fast down there and hold it in the where you help. It helps you hold it where you want it.
That track had good texture to it.
It did. The Winchester track, in my opinion, was a good track.
It would stay soft without being so tacky. It would actually stay soft throughout the race.
You're right. You had traction in the turn, a lot on the straightaway. Now that picture of the car with a wing on it, a lot of people didn't understand that wing. It didn't help you a bit in the turns or coming off the turns. But the farther you got down the straightaway, faster you went, the more wind got on it, and it'd hold the back end down. That's what that wing was all about. Jerry built it. My mechanic, he built that very wing.
Wow.
Where was your favorite track that you raced at throughout, if you had one, Cat?
Well, like I just said, that Winchester track, everybody's car handled much, much better on that. But that meant more competition, too.
That meant everybody run fast.
Everybody's running faster, yeah.
Let me ask you, share with us this. When you went to these different tracks, there was different guys there. There's always a hot dog there. Was there ever any guy in particular that if he was there that you would think, now I've got to beat him to win this race because he's fast too?
Well, I'll make a confession. We raced against Marty Robbins, and he had this kind of stuff like Ed Rogers, plenty of it. With a long story, he was a very, what I would describe as a polite driver. He didn't wreck nobody, and he could go on the straightaway, that car just like a bullet. But when he got in the turn, he would brake it, slow down. He was a polite, he didn't wreck nobody.
Well, let's go back to when you say you and your cousin swapped out every race. You know, if you run the heat race, he run the semi-feature, did either one of them have a worse finish, make the other driver have to come on back up through the pack more, or how did that work out?
He asked if when you and Raymond was sharing driving,
Yeah.
and maybe you ran a heat race, he ran a semi. Did you ever get you do bad in the heat race where he had to drive all the way up through the pack in the feature, or vice versa? Did that ever happen?
Well, maybe if I tell this, it'll explain a lot of it. At the Sparta Speedway, the Skeeter car right there, it was in the rules. The car has to be in 3 previous races. Well, it had only been in 2 races. I done had it on the trailer chained down. I'm gonna watch the big race. The grandstand, I'm serious now, in Sparta, there'll be somebody remembered. They got to hollering, don't start that race. We paid to see that little car run. We want to see they called it the little car, it's Skeeter. Well, the guy that run that called me over the side and we had a little discussion about, I'm gonna let you run, but you gotta keep this conversation to yourself because it'd be unfair to these other guys. I had to start in the rear. I won the race with that little Skeeter. I was rewarded. Now, be quiet about that now.
I know when you're good at something, you're really doing good. It's easy for a lot of people to get mad at you, take shots at you. Did you ever have any real serious altercations with any of the guys out there that just didn't like what you did or didn't like what you might have done to them or what they perceived you did to them?
Well, we had some nasty discussions, yeah. But probably the worst deal I ever got into, and they put me in jail, but it didn't have nothing to do with racing. I was down at a place called Mabel Stable. I just took a guy down there to get his car. They sold beer. I used to drink. Don't anymore, hadn't since 1977. Hadn't smoked a cigarette, never touched drugs. I smoked Viceroy, long story. Down there, a guy hit me in the back of the head with a beer bottle. Well, we went to war. I went to jail.
There's something that I've always wondered. How did you get the nickname Catman, Cool Kitten?
I was called Cat forever, then Catman, and then later on Cool Kitten.
Yeah, I see that.
I don't, my memory's beer.
Cat, let me ask if this could have had anything to do with that name. Now, you were one of my heroes all from the time I saw my first race. But when they'd call the lineup, especially for the feature, you would come out there, you'd never have your helmet on. It would be in the car. You'd line up right past the flagman stand. Now, that's where a lot of the ladies would sit. Now, Cat would
I remember this.
and you would look up in the crowd there where those ladies were, and you'd run that hand through that black wavy hair. You'd smile up there at all of those ladies. And then after the hair got put in place, you'd slide that helmet on and take one more smile back up at the crowd. Could that have had anything to do with the name of Cat?
Maybe. But I've always had the reputation of being a smart aleck.
Oh,
Wanting to show out, wanting attention, whatever you want to call it.
Well, that got attention.
Yeah.
You were a good showman, Cat. That made.
Well, I know. I remember what you're talking about, and I did it on purpose. It wasn't by accident. It didn't happen 1 or 2 times, many times. Yeah.
Cat, for the younger viewers that don't know what a Skeeter is, can you explain what it is?
Show that picture of it. That's total.
That's called.
It looked better before you did that to it, Cat.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
While he's getting that out, tell us what happened that totaled that Skeeter out.
This is Cat.
That's it. Yeah. Well, at the Cassville track, down the back straightaway going into turn 3, I run up on the back of a car from Murfreesboro. My brake line broke, but here's what happened. Best I remember, I run over something, made the car do this. I found out later that night, I'd run over somebody's car battery in their car. It fell out, and I run over it, and it done this. Well, when it done that, it pulled the brake line loose. I didn't have a sign of brake. When I went into 3, no brake, I run right up on the back. Seemed like it was Jake's Texaco out of Murfreesboro.
That was Herbert Jakes.
That's it. That's it. Well, that little car done that right off that big high embankment now at Sparta. And then it done this, and there's what's left.
Did the Skeeter have a transmission or anything like that in it, clutch?
Did it have a transmission in it? Some of the Skeeters only had an in and out box. Did that have a transmission in it?
You pulled it up out of gear. You pushed it down in gear. But now wait a minute, you had to have it out of gear if you was going to sit still and start it. You had to have it in gear, hit the starter, and it'd roll from here to there and start and go on. You had to have it in gear to start.
It was a direct drive.
Right.
Well, you couldn't put it in gear and it running.
Right.
Do you remember I know it had more than one engine in it. Do you remember what engines it had in it throughout the time you was driving it?
To start with, it had a 6-cylinder, 3 carburetors. All right. We was off somewhere. They come over and said, "You can't run, fellow. We're limited. Our rules here is 2 carburetors." He said, "You'll have to take one of them carburetors off." Well, we was taking it off real quick, but wait a minute, we can't. Our linkage won't work. I called that judge over. I said, "Fella, we can't take that center carburetor off. Our linkage won't work. Can't race." He said, "Let me ask you this. Can you raise that carburetor up and put a block in there so no air can get in it? Take the fuel line loose. We'll let you run that way. That carburetor won't help you a bit."
How did it run after that, Cat?
It helped it. It didn't spend as much coming off the turn. Yeah, it helped it, yeah. After that, we took the center carburetor, put a permanent block in under it, so it couldn't get no air, no gas, and it helped it get off the turn. It didn't break loose and spin. But then Ed Rogers had the guys to build a V8 and put in that thing. Well, it had a quick change rear end, so had to take and put higher gears in it to kill some of that power. But it worked. It worked.
It sure did.
Well, Ed Rogers' boys at that time, Ronnie and Eddie, they're still running the shop down there and the sales. Eddie's in charge of the sales. Ronnie's in charge of the repair, I guess you call it, the shop, yeah. And I was cutting up with them boys up there some years ago, not last 10 years, a long time ago. I said, "I remember when you guys were so little, just driving them cars around down there by the calf killer." He said, "Yep, but we was way too young then." and they was, yeah.
Well, after you crashed that Skeeter, did they rebuild it back, or what happened after that?
No, I went up there years after that, and I went in there and I offered, now Mr. Ed, he was already gone. I offered him, I said, "I'll give $5,000 for what's left of that Skeeter. I want to rebuild it, put it on a trailer, never put it on a track. I just want to show it off because it got a lot of attention." And they said, "We sold that thing for junk a few years ago, for junk."
Well, did you continue racing after that wreck?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what did you drive then?
Probably that coupe right there with the wing on it.
I think it was a blue coupe, if I remember.
There it is.
Yes.
That's it. There it is. That's it.
Could you tell us about that car?
Well, that was Ed Rogers' investment from start to finish. And they made it. He had guys that liked to work on that thing, and after they got off from work, they'd stay, and they built that car. Now, that wing that's on there, my mechanic, Jerry, he saw somewhere. He said, "I'm gonna put wing on that thing," and they didn't want to mess with it up there. He said, "Can I build it?" They said, yeah, well, he built that thing. And believe it or not, it didn't help in the turn, but the farther you went down the straightaway, more air got on that wing, pushed them back wheels down. It helped.
Let me ask you this. You've won a lot of races.
180 more plus.
Right. Now, usually in a man's career racing, there's one that stands out more than any other. If you had to think of one race that stands out in your memory or means more to you than any other, where would that be, Cat?
I think it was up at Monticello, Kentucky. It was a 100-lap race, and you ain't gonna believe what it paid back then. $300.
Buddy, that's a pile.
That back then, that was big money. Now they had a silly rule up there. If the first one at the gate, nobody went in till say an hour before the race. The first one at the gate got the time in last. You're going to say that's silly. No, let them practice. That helped. Let everybody time in. That's helped some more. I got up there early. There's going to be a 100-lap race, 100-lap, and it's going to pay. They advertised it 2 or 3 weeks. The grandstand was unbelievably full. I wanted to get up there first, and did. We had to sit there for hours. But and I got on the pole, won that thing, won it. Walked out.
Did you stay on the pole, stay in front the whole race?
The whole time, yeah, the whole time. I went into turn 1. I was lucky. I was wide open. Well, the track was in mint condition, in my opinion. For me, it was in mint condition. And I knew, hey, you better get in number 1. Well, can you pass somebody they're running? I wasn't the only one that had a good car. There was others that had a good car, but Ed Rogers, y'all know him, Ed Rogers, he had this kind of stuff. I had 75 cents an hour.
As long as you had Mr. Ed, you were all right.
Well, he and his whole family loved racing. They loved it. That's why we went to Alabama, Georgia. He was the one that said do it, but he used that to make money. He would, like our Sparta paper, the Sparta paper, he would put a big ad in the papers where them tracks is at, and he was selling cars at that much profit. That didn't make money, but he sold volumes. He was a smart man. He knew how to make money. He did that.
Let me ask you, how many kids did you have, Cat?
Me?
Yes.
Well, I had 2 sons. Now, one of them, it'll be 6 years this November the 7th. He was killed in the company airplane at the McMinnville Speedway. Tommy Stiles. It'll be 7 years, November the 7th. At the McMinnville, in about 3 miles of the McMinnville Airport.
I remember it happening.
That was the company plane, and my son Tommy, he run the company. He'd outgrown my little brain. I don't have no education. I've got 8th grade. He went on to college.
Well, did either of them ever have any aspirations of racing? Did they ever want to do it because you did it, or because they liked what you did?
The boys?
Yeah.
They were just little then when I was racing. See, we're looking at, you can figure it up, we're looking at 60, 65 years on some of them races ago. See, I'm 86.
So you quit before they got interested?
They'd like to watch them before us wanting to drive them. They never did want to get in one. Never, I don't remember them ever saying, let me ride with you. Yeah.
So I guess that's a good thing then
That's all.
that was a good thing then that they didn't want to do that because
I've got a picture, I didn't bring it, of Tony, the oldest boy. He's still living. He turned 61, and he's standing right beside of the car holding a trophy, and he was 6 years old. 6 years. No, they never did really say, let me drive the car, let me ride. They Forget that. But he was standing beside it. We had our picture made. He was holding a trophy.
If you've got a great grandkid, I'm sure, if they came to you and said, "Great grandpa, I'd like to drive a race car," what would you tell them?
If I had a what now?
A great grandkid.
A great grandkid?
How would you feel about them getting into racing today?
I'd say put a lot of roll bars in it and go for it.
Well, I think that's what you was telling me there a while ago. One of the first cars you built just had one roll bar in it, and then had some up the side.
That was a stupid thing. My idea, in the car, I had one roll bar that come right across here, and then on the driver's door over here, a roll bar that was welded to it, come over and bent down, bolted to the frame. One roll bar. That's dumb. Put a lot of roll bars in them.
Well, now that's the way they done them years ago. I think Gary Lowrance showed me one of his dad's cars just had one roll bar in it.
Well,
and it'd been a sedan too.
That, in my opinion, the way I tried to drive, the way I did drive, I needed a bunch of roll bars.
Cat and myself both came along at a time where you didn't give a lot of thought to safety. We learned from every crash we had, I guess, of something else we needed, but we probably didn't give it the attention that it needed back then.
Well, there was one time, I'll make this short, that I was actually scared. I was really nervous, shaking all over. I was at a racetrack, go down the back straightaway, and turn 3, turn 4, but they had a block wall, not concrete, just blocks. But just past it was a pond, big lake, pond, big pond or lake, whatever you want to call it. But it came up reasonably close to that wall. Well, I was going down through there, broke the brake line, and I hit that wall and went through it. Well, the hot water and the antifreeze, you run antifreeze, that helped cool them, we thought. And that water came right in on me, hot water, and it was dark down there. And I thought, oh my, you're in that pond, get out of here, you'll drown. I got unbuckled right quick, went right out through the door, the window part, you know. And my feet was doing this, and I'm not in no water. I got my bubble raised up. I don't know where the bubble is for this helmet. Looked around, and the pond was a few feet right there. I didn't get to it. It was that hot water and antifreeze. The antifreeze colored that shield, and I couldn't see that.
Well, you were underwater.
Well, yeah, I was underwater. Yeah, I just wasn't in the lake. I was under shower water, hot water.
You had the water behind you.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
What was the last year you did race, Cat?
I'm afraid to even guess. No, I could be off and be telling a big one. I try now not to tell big ones.
Do you remember if you were still racing when they closed the Cassville track behind the Cassville School?
No, I don't think it was.
No, they raced after I quit. I started a business, and okay. I quit racing. Okay. Well, somebody said, "Why do y'all go all the way up to Kentucky to race?" I said, "They paid $4 more." Well, it took $30 to get up there and back.
There's just some places you like to race just to be there, to be part of the line.
To be honest about it, that Winchester track, you had traction, and in my opinion, I had a whole lot better control of the car. But others did too now. It wasn't just me. I believe I could say 99, or maybe everybody, 100% had better control of the car.
Well, it was a great equalizer, Winchester track was. Cars it didn't handle would handle down there.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Cat. I just happen to know that there's a church around here that respects you a lot. They are even interested in seeing this. Would you like to share a little bit about that church with us?
Yeah.
The Cumberland Heights Church of Christ, right out of Sparta, like going to Rock Island.
Yeah.
It's up there on the hill on the right.
Know where it is?
Cumberland Heights.
Yeah.
I was baptized there December the 10th, my birthday of December of last year, roughly 3 months ago. Yeah. Well, I hope they see it. I hope they see it.
He's pointing somebody else.
Yeah.
No,
I believe we
get back to when he quit. I think the last year they run the coupes, and so a lot of them had done got away from the sedans and went to coupes. I think it was 1968. Then they went to the full body cars. I had Cat to tell me several times, he never did drive a full fendered car. So
Did you ever want to drive a full fendered car, Cat, or did you just get busy and
Well, I had my mind on the business, and here's why. I'll try to explain this. I didn't have any money when I started the business, and you know what a good set of hinges is. I wore out a real good set 4 times, 4 sets of hinges on the bank's door, opening up, going there to borrow money. and I'll tell you, see, I've got an 8th grade education, nothing. I went in there, I done had 5 little notes in there, $200-300.
Yeah.
But that was money back then now. I went in there and I told the guy, I said, I need to borrow, I think I'll call it $200-300. He said, now you've done got 5 notes in here. This, I'm serious. He said, what we gonna do is pay off 3 of them. I said, wait a minute, I didn't come in here to pay. I come in here to borrow. I need some more money, buy another piece of equipment. I'm expanding my business. He said, wait a minute, what we're gonna do is put them 3 plus what you're gonna get today on 1 note. Then you'll just have 3 instead of 6 notes. Now that's a true story.
that was the charm of the Cat?
That was at City Bank and Trust Company in Backmanville many years ago. Now the company builds dry keels out of stainless steel. Do I? No. My grandson does.
Oh.
But I got old and I built me a camp down, I joined the river at Hodges Bridge. I got sorrier, lazier than a town dog. Yeah.
well, now they're working for Levi. That helped you out a bunch too, didn't it?
I worked for Levi Strauss on their buildings. I repaired, cleaned, striped their parking lots, painted their buildings, did quite a bit of type of roofing. I had to have real good insurance to work on them. They, at one time, Levi Strauss had 93 locations in the United States. Today, to my knowledge, there's not one sewing machine. There's 3 buildings, Levi Strauss. You know what they are, distribution centers. There's, to my knowledge, now, there's not one sewing machine, Levi Strauss. There's sewing machines by the millions, I'm sure, but not Levi Strauss. When this country signed that free trade agreement, they said bye, and they left, went everywhere.
A lot of businesses done that.
Well, now tell us about, you had some inside help to get this first job, and I think you...
Well, I'll tell you, be honest about it.
Yes, now...
The maintenance guy at that plant in Campaign, he called me. I was painting barns, barn roofs, houses, taped the windows off, paint them, scratch them, wash them, clean them, and paint them. He said, I need my barn roof painted, and he had a barn and a shed some kind. Well, he was the head maintenance guy at the Levi plant in Campaign, right down there close to McMinnville. He called me at home and said, now they're going to call you up there at the plant. They want the outside of this building painted, and they're looking for somebody that will go to these plants on weekends and work on them. They look for somebody they can depend on. They'll call you up there, and then they'll call me up to the office. Now, you don't know me. Okay. Phone rings, come up to the Levi plant, we need an estimate. Went up there, long story. They said, we'll get him up here. They called it, here that guy come in. I'm so-and-so. They said, I want you to give us a price on the outside painting this building. He said, I'll help you measure it. Well, he helped me measure it. Now, you're going to call me a cheapskate, but I'll be okay. He had said they're looking for a guy, a contractor they can depend on to go to these plants on weekends when the plant's down. You know, the long story, I worked up a small bid, put the price down there, and I didn't turn that in. I cut the price way down to there. I cut it way on down there. I may have actually lost money instead of making money, but I took that up there and gave it to the lady at the front desk. That guy called me and said, are you sure you can paint this for this much money? I said, yeah, I can do it. I got the job, and that went all through a lot of the Levi plants. It covered me up from work. But I didn't give the rest of that painting away. I charged for it.
Well, Cat, as we've go through life, we influence people. We never know who's looking at us. And I want to tell you today, you've been a real positive influence on me. I never met anybody really that didn't really like Cat. They might not have liked him hitting them as hard as he did, but they wouldn't say that they just didn't like or respect old Cat. So I got to commend you for that. You've been a good positive influence on a lot of people throughout life, and me one of them.
Well, with an 8th grade education, I managed to get in and out the front door. That's about all I'm saying.
Well, education is just a means to start your learning process. The education comes with years and gray hair.
I've got that too.
Cat, you brought some pictures. You want to go through them right quick and maybe tell us something about it?
Okay. This one right here is the first one that we actually built, and that's the one Ed Rogers saw at Cassville, and he asked me about what would it take to get his name put on that car. I won a few races, and I said, fella, everything is appreciated. I done like this. He said, bring that up to my place. I'd see things that we can do to it that'll help it. I said, where is your place? He said, I'm Ed Rogers. I thought, you idiot, you. Well, back then, think about it, he was down there where the calf killer come through the river, the town of Sparta.
Yeah.
Calf killer, this is years and years ago now. Well, they did major things to that car. It had 4 new wheels on it, that wide, tires. Back then, you grooved them yourself. They'd let you borrow, if you bought the tar, they'd loan you the groover. You grooved it like you wanted it. They wouldn't do it. You had to do it like you wanted it. Well, the long story, he was just, Ed Rogers was good to the Cat man. He was good to me.
And Cat was good back.
Well, I want to tell you this real quick. He said, bring your helmet in here. I went in there and got it. I'd go up there sometimes at night. They'd be working on the car. He said, Cat, come to my office. I went in there and he said, bring your helmet in here. I took it in there and it was pitiful. Oh, he said, do you know where you can get a new one? I said, Honest Charlie, Chattanooga. He said, go ahead and order one. Well, back then, a small package, they'd bring it to the bus station on a bus. Young people don't know what I'm talking about. He called me 2 or 3 days after that, said, Cat, come to my office. He said, you've got something down at the bus station. Go down there and get it. I said, I can't. He said, well, why not? You're not doing anything out there. I said, I ain't got no money. Come here. He gave me the money. I went down there and got that thing, brought his change back, laid it down there. Hey, that's the helmet right here. The, not a, the helmet. He said, leave that in here with me. I want to do something to it. he had that put on it. He had that put on it. He had it painted blue. Well, when I quit racing, he said, "You can have the helmet." Well, there it is. I've got a place hanging on my wall in my residence in a glass frame and a shelf, and that stays in there, and this glass thing sits down over it so you can see it. Been in there this many years. That thing is possibly 65 years. Very, very possible 65 years old.
That looks like a bell.
Yeah.
Now tell us a little bit more about, I know this was your favorite car, Cat.
It definitely was. But see, them three carburetors,
Yes, sir.
that's what I was talking about a while ago. They said you could only run at a certain track. I believe it was up in Kentucky. We're only allowed, our rules said 2 carburetors. Well, we couldn't take the middle one off. Our linkage wouldn't work. But that's a few of the trophies now. See, they're already Cat Stiles on that thing.
And the triple nickel.
Triple nickel, yeah. Let's see. I don't even get a picture of that. Yeah. Okay.
Now, Cat, tell us one more inspiring thing that you would need to tell a young guy that's never sat in a race car and he knows he's just got to do it. What advice would you give him today other than a pile of roll bars?
Well, in these it's not new anymore, but them full body cars, I'm not familiar enough with them, but I would be extremely promoting safety with them because they'll run on asphalt. See, I never was on asphalt or concrete, but they go so fast, I would promote safety all the way, which they do.
They do. They do a good job of it.
They do, yeah. In fact, there was one race NASCAR had, remember, y'all, I hope y'all saw this. One car was up in the air. One car was up in the air, and it fell down on the track, and another one hit it. You need safety and that stuff like that. But that car went up in the air, and I'm gonna guess 10, 12 feet.
It was high. And there was one just this season got hit hard enough that it knocked the engine out of it. But the car itself survived well.
Well, that's how fast they're running on asphalt and concrete. We didn't go that fast on dirt.
No, but we hit hard, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, Cat, appreciate you coming. You're welcome anytime. And one more thing we need to share before we go.
Well, I am in the Hall of Fame.
And well deserved.
Well deserved, well earned.
Well, that.
I want to say to Cat here, it's an honor and pleasure with me to just be sitting beside a Cat. He was one of my heroes, one of my idols. As I was a teenager, 14 years old when I first saw him race, and he's been everything, every inspiration a guy could ever want for. To be like Cat Stiles, you'll do well if you can do that.
Thank you. That white uniform, I wore a white shirt, white pants, and on the side of the legs, outside of the legs on the pants, a blue stripe, about that wide, and it was just I just liked to do it, but that was the uniform that I wore.
The way he kept it clean, he stayed in front.
Yeah. That way no dirt would get on it.
Well, but let me put it this way. I had a good car, a car that won't do it. Nobody can make it do it. Nobody can make it do it. But I had some good cars now, and I only total. Ed Rogers said, "Look, Cat, I like to hear people tell me at these racetracks when they come by a car up here, I saw your name on the race car. He said, when you get a chance, go for it. If you scratch it up or bend it, we'll fix it. We got a body shop. We'll fix it. I total for. I'm not talking about bend them, scratch them. I totaled them. Total for.
Well, you know, when I brought this up, that, you know, you need to be in the Hall of Fame, got asking around, and B.K. Looney said, yeah, that man was good. So some of you tough competitors bragging on you.
B.K. Luna was competition. Don't let nobody tell you he wasn't. He was competition. But I have nothing bad to say about him. Now, at his funeral is a double line, Hunter's Funeral Home, a double line out there to go in there to pay respect. His wife was sitting right there beside of the casket. Well, when I came in, she recognized me. And here's what she said. I'm guessing I was far as from here to the door or the wall, or, hi, Cat. Cat man, he won't be looking at your back bumper anymore, and you won't be looking at his back bumper anymore. That's what she said, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Cat, appreciate you coming up, and will you come back and see us again sometime?
If I can get somebody to bring me up here, I don't remember the way up here.
We'll
take care of that.
We'll get you up here. And
I might want to come and look at your museum.
And the final picture right there is the I'll read it for you, Cat.
Oh, okay.
Driver, triple nickel 555. First annual Cumberland Racers Hall of Fame, Wesley Stiles, 2016. And there's not been a Hall of Fame since then. And this year we're bringing it back, and it will be back every year. For my host, Tommy Guy, co-host Tommy Guy, co-host Randall Davis, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.